relentlessly, obsessively democratic, and it cannot be unraveled from her deep sense of sympathy or her conception of love. The uncommon interest that she demonstrates in any creature, however degenerate, who turns up on the doorstep of her imagination. It would be easy for this talk of suffering to turn brittle or humorless, but Barnes knows when to cue our laughter. Dr. Silverstaff is a fantastic name for a gynecologist. What explains Barnes? Although I had read and taught her 1936 novel Nightwood many times before reading her stories, it had never occurred to me to investigate her life. For a long time, I believed that the strange beauty of her language had bucked my desire for history. I now wonder if I was afraid of what I would discover. My reaction, I later learned, was the opposite of her biographer Philip Herring's reaction to her writing. I wanted to teach Nightwood, but I felt frustrated by my futile attempts to understand it. Before I could understand the novel, he concluded, I had to understand Djuna Barnes. She was born on Storm King Mountain in 1892, the daughter of an English woman and a wandering American fiddler and horse breeder, a man who believed in free love and trafficked freely in cruelty. Her home in the Hudson River Valley was filled with his lovers and friends, one or more of whom, Barnes hints in her journals, raped her when she was a teenager. For a time, she lived with her grandmother, with whom she had, at the least, an appallingly intimate relationship. When she returned to her father's home, he turned Barnes, her sisters and brothers, and her mother out, and refused to support them. She moved to New York, then to Paris in 1921, where she ran around with Eliot, Pound, and Stein, and had the shattering love affair with Thelma Wood that she drew on for Nightwood. She did not return to New York until 1939, alone and destitute. When she died in 1982, she had published nearly nothing for 40 years. Here was a life forged in a constant, unfathomable agony, irradiating any milder emotions. The concentration of pain seems to have led to a notably concentrated aesthetic. We can count on one hand her recurrent settings and detailed scenes. There is a city, glittering and squalid, or there is the sinister quiet of the countryside with one or two well-bred horses in the stable. Inside a house there are whips of rich leather and a menagerie of decorative objects, Venetian glasses and bowls of onyx, silks, cushions, and perfumes. No doubt Barnes borrows many of her furnishings from the writers of the fin de siècle, but in her hands their decadence turns jagged, elliptical, and emphatically cosmopolitan, with characters speaking in tuneful snatches of English, German, Russian, and French. We can count, on the other hand, the characters on whom Barnes lavishes her attention. There are men, some melancholy and philosophical, others sensual, contemptuous. In her most chilling story, Oscar, the former type is represented by Oliver Kahn, who had an odor about him of the rather recent cult of the terribly good. The latter by Ulrich Straussmann, the type who can turn the country with a single gesture into a brothel. There is often a woman of wealth or noble title who, though no longer young, burns with a late-blooming, ill-fated love like Princess Frederica Rollinghausen of The Passion, or Madame Bolivar of Indian Summer. Sometimes there is a child, or a childlike figure, who seeks to penetrate the secrets of the adult world, as in A Boy Asks a Question, or The Rabbit. Expecting compassion or guidance, the child is initiated into the horrors of sex and death. The story, The Perfect Murder, seems to parody Barnes's fixation on perverse human specimens. Professor Anatole Profax, a dialectologist, is on a quest to find a truly original human being. He meets a trapeze artist on the street, a woman in flowing black who speaks brightly and manically in riddles. She tells him that she regularly dies and returns to life, each time as a new trauma, a testament to the many depravities of modern civilization. People adore me after a long time, after I have told them how beastly they are, weak and sinful. Perhaps he is maddened by her. Perhaps, to call her bluff, the professor slits her throat and packs her body into his leather trunk. The body disappears, only to reappear later that day in the taxi next to his.